Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the March 11th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting. As is usual, this meeting will be recorded and will be hybrid, so roll call votes will be required. It will be recorded for the purpose of making our meeting minutes. Our first order of business is to establish quorum. Alyssa?
Here.
Raphael?
Here.
John?
Here.
I am here as well. We do have quorum 4-0. We don't have any transfers pending. Any public comment before we begin? Hearing none, we'll move right into, again, we will be very dynamic tonight. As soon as the architect is here, we will switch gears and go immediately to the library. But while he is not here, our next order of business is actually to continue our discussion of for recommendations for the town meeting warrant.
I get it.
You got it?
I don't know. Wait a minute. I have to open. I thought I opened it up.
Yeah.
March 11th. I put it on the front of my.
We were all having fun last night at the select board meeting.
Stay away.
Sit behind.
There it is.
There it
Thank you
is.
so much. Thank you. I was like, I knew it was here. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I do share.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hey, David.
Can you see that, Raphael?
Raphael.
Not yet. You're not sharing.
Okay.
No, I'll go back to Zoom.
Okay.
Go on to you. Expand that.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, now do your share.
Oh, there.
Share. Yep, there you go.
All right. Thank you. See? Oh,
There's the magic.
It takes a village.
I'm good some days and then other days I just.
We'll give you the benefit. That's the last thing.
Thank you.
So our first, like I say, we will break as soon as the architect arrives to talk about the library. But let's start with.
I'm sorry to interrupt. If you X out your tools menu, you'll get a bigger screen, a bigger image on screen. No, not that one. Your tools. Your tools. No,
No.
not that one.
It's
All
stressed out.
tools.
This.
Yep. Hit that.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
So, Article 2, which is the municipal budget. I don't know how many of you are as compulsive as I am, but so Jennifer included in the packet materials the gory detail behind all the numbers. So if Jennifer, you might want to just quickly update people on what has changed, or what updates you have made.
Okay. So good evening. I sent you the proposed budget from our financial management system. So I just sent the whole budget. And really, the only numbers that have changed are the debt numbers. So we're going to have a $35 million bond issue in April. So I'm incorporating principal and interest into the budget, which I did, and they reflect the documents that I sent you. So we're bonding the water. We're going to do that over 20 years. We're bonding Riverview Park through the CPC. That will be done over 10 years. We're bonding the water. There's a lot of water. So the 6A, and then there's the money for the SOAR. We're bonding the fire apparatus, the fire engine, the quint pumper that was approved last year. We're bonding 4.4 for the equalization tanks, for the septic facility. We have payments in there, which you already voted for the wastewater. And we're bonding 1.4 million for the sanitation pad. So there's a lot that went into the budget. It's principal and interest. The budget reflects this.
And the offset was the bands, right?
No, the offset
That was-
really, so in water, it will be water revenue.
Okay.
The only one that really hits the general fund is the sanitation because that expense is in the general fund, but all the rest of them, like Riverwalk Park is gonna be CPC. Wastewater is the wastewater stabilization fund. Fire is ambulance fees. And that really,
Yeah.
that's it. So it's about $35 million, but the principal and interest is now incorporated into the budget.
And the health insurance?
The health insurance didn't change. I had always projected the 8%. The only other number that changed a little bit was the Barnstable County retirement. We did get the actual assessment in from Barnstable County, and that's incorporated now into the budget. And that's really the only change from what you all see.
So so the backups is consistent with this. So the only question now, and if there are no other questions, is whether we are prepared to recommend the municipal budget in the amount of. Don't go too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the amount of 54,000 or 54 million. Can you read that off? Because
It's $54,370,811. And I just want to point out that the warrant has been right with the principal and interest the last couple times that you've had the warrant. I just, what I gave you for the packet was just from the financial management system.
any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to recommend?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I can
Also-
second it.
No. This does require a roll call vote. Alyssa?
Aye.
Raphael?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Carries 4-0. The water division budget, Article 4.
Do golf.
We already did golf 5-0 last week. And again,
Again, the principal and interest is
Just that,
now
right.
incorporated. I believe the principal and interest for the water department, that's the majority of the bond issue, is 1.9 million.
any other concerns? Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Alyssa? Raphael?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. 4-0. Septage enterprise budget.
Again, 4.4 million, principal and interest, are incorporated into the budget. And I do want to point out, there's a separate town meeting warrant article for 2.8, I believe, and that will finish this project. So this is, when they bid it out, it was higher. With the original estimate of 4.4 million was, they were anticipating rehabbing both tanks, but when they bid it out, it was a lot higher, so they did one tank, so they still have some money left over from the 4.4. So you'll see in another article an additional 2.8, and then they'll rehab that tank over the winter. But this is incorporating the 4.4.
Any questions? I have a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll
Second.
second.
Oh, you lost your spot there. Roll call vote. Alyssa?
Aye.
Raphael?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Next one is Dennis Yarmouth Regional School District. I would prefer that we deal with that later.
Yep, agreed.
Cape Cod Regional Technical High School. This reflects, this reflects all of the assessments that we were presented at last night's public hearing. This will require an override.
An override in the amount of $680,197, I believe.
And prior to town meeting, we'll have the information related to the cost per thousand, but
I think that was correct. The
Right, so
one-
that's-
Go ahead.
yeah, so I had sent out sort of when I did the DY thing, I forgot about all the debt exclusions and all that sort of stuff. But the one I sent you
Correct.
for Cape Cod Tech, was I right? The debt exclusion? Is that the piece I missed?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
So the override's 680, and I believe the calculation was correct. So that's like 6 cents on the tax rate
Okay.
for that for the override for Cape Cod Tech.
Average household, something like $45. And again, unless there's, are there any questions about that? I mean, it's,
I have a question. Alyssa, this may have been mentioned last week, but are we waiting for any additional information from
Cape
this?
Tech?
Yeah, from Cape Tech.
No, this is the voted budget
Okay,
from Cape Tech. The school committee did vote the budget. This is the assessment.
right. And I don't know if you probably didn't pay attention to my rate volume variance, but it is all volume related.
yeah.
So, Raphael, any questions?
Just to clarify, when you say volume related, that's the 30 plus new enrollments from Yarmouth, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Was it 30? Was it 31, I think?
Yeah, incremental, right? We had
But-
57 kids go into the freshman class, and obviously we had a slightly smaller exiting class, so the total ended up plus 30,
Plus 30. Okay.
one or
Thank you.
whatever.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to recommend Article 9, including the 680,000 and change override?
I'll recommend.
Okay.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Alyssa,
Aye.
Raphael,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well as carries 4-0. Next up is capital expense various departments. We've already done golf capital, water division capital, police cruiser financing, and fire department capital. So it's just a long list. And again, I believe everything was, if you hadn't read all of the details, but I think this again is consistent with the recommendations that the capital budget committee made. And do I hear a motion to recommend?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Alyssa,
Aye.
Raphael? Raphael?
Aye. Sorry about that. I had an itch.
Aye.
Carries, and I'm an aye as well, carries 4-0. Library construction will defer until we have some of the facts. We are then up to Article 20, current Article 26, CPA affordable housing projects. So this will be, other than the library and the Cape and the Dennis DY Regional School District budgets, these are the last 4 articles that we need to address. And again, for context, these are, much of this is the mandatory.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So these are the projects that the Community Preservation Committee voted. Under the act, the only way it really does get on the warrant is a positive vote from the committee. Finance Committee does make a recommendation, but it's really who moves the article is the Community Preservation Committee. So these are the projects that have been presented to them, and they vet them out with their applications. And so they do break it up in the warrant under the 3 different reserve appropriations, and one is for affordable housing.
And these are very consistent with, so basically these are a continuation for the most part of existing programs that we support. Any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to recommend?
No, I have a question. Quick question.
Yes, sir.
And this may have been answered in the past, and I just don't recall. But let's say 9-10 months from now, we want to know. We want to see the receipts for line item D, Habitat for Humanity, Wood Road Community Housing. Who would we go to get the receipts for what was spent on that particular line item?
Okay, so usually the way an application works is the Habitat for Humanity will put an application into the Community Preservation Committee. And then the Community Preservation Committee, really what they come up with is a contract or a letter of agreement. And so there's certain benchmarks or things that they need to provide in order to get the money. And usually, I didn't sit in on the meetings, but usually what happens is on a reimbursable basis. So Habitat will show them, the bills, and then they reimburse Habitat. And that's all public record. So if at some point you want to look at what they spent for this project, you would contact the Community Preservation Committee. It's all public record, and just request the documents.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Alyssa.
Sure.
The repurpose 1.1 million, where is that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It has come up. So usually what happens in order to meet the threshold of affordable housing, the Community Preservation Committee will fund the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So if people are familiar with the Affordable Housing Trust. So that was developed years ago, and it's governed by a board, and people are on that board. And so they move the CPC money into the trust. And so then the trust, or the trustees of that trust, usually I think it's made up with Bob Rittenhouse on it, former town administrator, and they usually have representatives from different committees. And so then they look at applications for affordable housing, and then they vote them, and then we use the affordable trust money. This money is already in the Affordable Housing Trust, and they were using it for one project that the Affordable Housing Trust voted, and now they want to use it for another project for Affordable Housing Trust. So it really doesn't need to be voted at town meeting, because once the money goes into the trust, you're following that money and just making sure that you're using it for CPC purposes under that 10% threshold. Not 10%, but the reserve. So they're just and they wanted to let this go. They're just going to use this money, and it's already in the Affordable Housing Trust, and they're using it for a mixed-use rental housing development. And any specifics to that, you'd probably want to contact Mary Wagon. She actually manages the Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay, so we're just voting on the appropriation of the funds, not
Well, there, so
already-
those funds are already
Okay.
there. So,
what, I guess, what
all right, so let
are
me.
we voting on?
Okay. Under the act, the Community Preservation Committee makes these votes, and they're the
Okay.
ones that move it at town meeting. Actually, usually the Finance Committee just normally, under like some process, will review it and say, yes, we agree with the Community Preservation
it.
Committee. And that's
Okay.
really what you're doing, is saying, okay, you know what? Community Preservation Committee looked at this. We they vetted it all out. They looked at this. We agree with them.
I see.
And that's
Okay.
really what you're doing. I know it's confusing with the 1.1, doesn't really need to be there, but they really wanted to do it for transparency purposes, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense. I just wanted to understand what it.
Yep.
would
Yeah,
be
so-
for.
And then if you wanted
Yeah.
to get the explanations of the different projects, it's in the warrant. So Project A would tell you, Project B is they're repurposing the appropriated funds of that. And it will tell you exactly where it's going, and specific questions can go to Mary Wagon.
Perfect. Okay, that's really
That
helpful.
makes sense.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. You had your hand up, Raphael. Does that answer the question?
Jennifer actually, excuse me, took the quote out of my mouth. She said it doesn't really need to be there. We just want it for visibility, transparency, and accountability. Because
hear
it's
him?
not summed up, it's not in the far right-hand column, so we're not rolling it forward. We're just identifying that it's still sitting there in the trust, if I understood everything correctly.
That's correct.
Okay,
Do I have a motion to recommend article number 26?
I'll recommend it.
I can second.
Roll call vote. Alyssa,
Aye.
Raphael,
Aye.
Ron, I'm an aye as well, carries 4-0. Recreation projects. And this is again, the Parkers, so this is the Parkers River project is the one that's sort of been proposed for this particular bunch of money. Questions? Hearing none.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do have a question. what was in the original project of 12 to 13 million dollars that we missed, and we're now asking for additional $504,000?
I don't know where you got the 12 to 13 million, but what it is we applied for a grant for Packet Landing, and the 504,000 is a match. So it's a match to the 2 million. And we've been,
I'm sorry, you corrected me properly. I heard the Parker, I heard the,
Packet, yeah, you heard,
I'm-
this is Packet Landing.
Right.
thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I have flashbacks to last year.
You're not lying.
Okay,
I will move it.
okay. Do I have a second? Don't everybody be shy here.
I'll second, sorry. Oh, raise this hand.
No, just a-
Okay, so, all in favor, Alyssa? Raphael?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, carry 0. Even though our guests have all arrived, we only have 2 more to finish up, so let's power forward. This is, Article 28, Open Space Projects. And this is actually the Friends of Bass River, which has done a fabulous job of, again, raising lots of money that we help to match. Unless there's other things. Do I have a motion?
I'll recommend.
Okay,
Second.
we'll call a vote. Alyssa,
Aye.
John, Raphael,
Aye.
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Last is the Article 29, the Historical Preservation Projects. Any questions on this one? Notice that the Yarmouth Port Library is there. The famous historic Yarmouth Port Library is getting some money out of, to make sure that they have handicap access. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve? Recommend?
I'll move it.
Okay.
I'll second.
There's only like a few of us. It's weird.
Yeah. it is.
Mhm. Right.
Hearing, roll call vote to recommend Article 29. Alyssa?
Aye.
John? John?
Aye.
Raphael?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. That concludes all of our articles with the exception of the budget adjustments, which will be the snow and ice. I saw the placeholder in there for 2 million.
Oh, did they change that?
Yeah.
The budget was gonna start with it too.
Yeah.
Richard, can I make one other comment?
Yes.
So, I know last night at the meeting, the warrant for the season, seasonality, community,
Yeah, seasonal community designation.
right? But when that comes back on in the fall, if it makes it for fall meeting, I'll speak for myself. There was way more to that than I had originally thought.
Mhm.
And I think it would warrant a,
A full-blown review.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we are ready to proceed to, our next item on our agenda, which is the, library, presentation. So, we have a number of people who are on the library committee. It's all of you, as well as Linda Callahan, who is the chair of the, or the president of the South Yarmouth Library Association with us. And,
Library director? Library director?
he's not on the committee.
I'm not on the committee.
The library director is here. And of course, our favorite architect is here. So,
So I have the presentation up. I can just. it's
Great.
right up there, so I can.
Terrific.
I don't know who wants to lead off.
I can start. Richard and board members, thank you for having us this evening. I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a cold. But as you know, the library has been approved by the MBLC for a grant to proceed to design and construction, but we have to move that through town meeting, and we're here tonight through Matt Udens, who's the principal architect at Udenzello, and he's going to run through a little bit of the project history and then the numbers itself. So,
Okay.
Matt?
Ready for me?
Yep.
First of all, thank you for being patient. I thought we were on at 7.
But you know, we are very fluid.
I'm sorry that,
I thought you were just going to join us remotely.
well, I'm happy to be here.
waiting.
I love an excuse to drive down
Yeah.
Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background for everybody. I don't know who is familiar with this project, who isn't. If you can go full screen, actually, it's cutting off.
This right here.
Either if you hit like Control-0, sometimes that gets you to full page at least. There you go.
Okay.
So the schedule for the overall project, just so everybody understands where we are in the process. We did a 6-month feasibility study effectively that was satisfying the requirements of the state grant. We submitted what the state calls MPC, oh my God, alphabet C. MPLCP level of design submission. MPLCP is the Massachusetts Public Library Grant Program. We did that at the end of 25, so we submitted at the end of December. The MBLC reviewed it. They accepted our submission without any comments. It now is in the pipeline to get to town meeting. If it passes at town meeting, then we would start design at that point. Design would be 12 months roughly for full design services to get us to completion of bid documents, typically 2 months of bidding, and then about 18 months of construction, we're estimating. So from the time that we get approval to move ahead, we're looking at about a 32-month process. So just to kind of give everybody a sense of where we are, it's the very beginning of a long process. Next, please. When we started the project, the town had already conducted a sort of site selection process. It was done it was an open public process with a lot of input. They settled on the town-owned property directly across the street from us, which is comprised of 2 parcels, parcels 50 and 60. Parcel 50 being the open space that's right behind the old Simpkins School. And then parcel 60 is where the MacArthur School building is, which is currently being subleased to Bridgewater State. We started looking at parcel 50, the open space, as the home for the new library. We found after a couple of months that it was discovered that that is actually protected open space. And so we are not legally able to build there. And so we shifted our focus to parcel 60. Next slide. And because of the existing building, which we also, for a variety of reasons that I won't get into now, dismissed in terms of that as a possibility for the library. We then looked at where could we put a new 25,000 square foot library. And our area of preferred focus was that northeast corner, the yellow shaded wedge there, because we didn't want a new important building for the town to be kind of hidden behind an existing building whose future is unclear. We wanted it to be as close to Route 28 as we could. It's an important community asset. It needs to be accessible from the public way. And so that to us seemed like it was the right location for it. Next slide. As we dug into that, we realized that the reason that area hasn't been developed is because there's a lot of topography there. Who knew? It's completely wooded. It's very overgrown. It's very difficult to walk through. So my guess is most people have not been in there. It is also, we thought, a potential amenity. You know, that becomes a kind of natural buffer between a very busy street and a kind of contemplative public library. And so we actually started thinking of this as a real positive. And so we thought about organizing the building around the edges of that depression. And it's not dramatic. It's a very shallow, bowl, effectively wooded. So organizing the library around that treats it like an amenity. It's a visual amenity. It provides a kind of natural area of focus. It allows people to get out of the library into nature right outside. We have a reading terrace planned on that side of the building. Next, please. And so that became our focus. As we were developing the site plan, we realized that because of the MacArthur School building, the parking solution was going to have to solve both the library and the school parking. There's an existing parking lot there, which is a little bit difficult to see, but it's kind of right in the middle here. In a tough spot. It was very difficult to work with in its existing location. And so we redesigned the lot to accommodate both library parking and school parking. So it's 83 spaces for library. It maintains the 48 existing spaces, but also it improves the improves the school drop off at the same time accommodating the library's needs. So it's kind of a win-win for the town. It improves the situation for the school. It makes easier drop off. It gets people closer to the ADA entrance, which is on the east side of that building. Has a separate dedicated drop off for the library, and then has enough spaces to accommodate both. Next, please. The library itself is planned as a 25,000 square foot single story building, arranged in 3 wings in a kind of radial plan. At the center of that, of those 3 wings is the lobby and circulation desk. So good wayfinding for visitors, good visual control for staff, which is really important in public buildings, public libraries in particular. Just to sort of explain how it's laid out, I won't get into detail, but the left-hand wing is the youth services wing, children and teens and staff. The wing that's heading up towards Route 28, which is at the top of the page, is the adult wing. The community wing is at the bottom of the page. The gray shaded areas, it's very light on the slide, but the shading denotes all of the program that is accessible off hours. Most public libraries today are designed so that you have access to a small collection of rooms so that the town has use of those rooms, usually at least a meeting room. In this case, we have a large meeting room. We also have a 600 square foot classroom space. So a couple of different size rooms that the town can use for meetings, for activities. Plus associated bathrooms, kitchenette, storage, etc. That area would be on a backup generator. So in a power outage, people could still come and charge phones, get a cup of coffee, connect with their community. So we see that as a really vital resource in public libraries. Staff is the bump out on the right-hand side, directly behind the circulation desk. Next, please. So I have a few images just to give you a sense. Again, this is early in the design. This is kind of mid-schematic level. So there's a lot of design still, but this gives you a flavor. This is the existing condition. That's the MacArthur School building on the right. Next slide. Route 28 is running along the bottom of the image. This is the new build out with the larger parking lot, the new library. Next, please. Approaching from parking, you see the community wing on the right-hand side. So that large community room is the closest room to us. There's a covered entry porch that gets you from parking and drop off to the front entrance. The horizontal wing that you see there is the youth services wing. Next. Moving along the covered entry towards lobby. Next. Once you're in the lobby, you're looking straight out to that central wooded area. On the right side, you're looking down the length of the adult wing. To the left is entrance to the children's wing, and then you have the teen room behind glass directly adjacent to the lobby. Public libraries require good supervision by staff, and so all the shelves in the middle of the space are purposefully kept low so that you can see over them. So you can see clear down the length of the adult wing. We have tall stacks around the perimeter typically, but it's easier for people to find their way. It's also great for staff. You can see that we're thinking of this as a mass timber framed building for all of the reasons that people select mass timber these days: carbon sequestration, sustainability, indoor quality, the environmental benefits, but also benefits to occupant welfare. There are many, many benefits, and we have been focused on mass timber in the last 10 years. We're doing the Boston Public Library's first mass timber branch is in construction now in Dorchester. Next, please. So this is an interior view of the children's room. Tall windows, program space on the left. This is oriented sort of towards that central wooded area. Next. This is down at the far end of the adult wing, closest to Route 28, looking out towards that central wooded area again. Next. Interior view of that flexible meeting room. Next. About 120 seat meeting room. This is a view from Route 28, so you can see how that central wooded area becomes a kind of visual and even acoustic buffer between the street and the library, but the library still has a presence on the street. There is a pedestrian connection from the sidewalk on 28 across along the side of the adult wing all the way back to the lobby. So whether you're coming from Route 28 or from parking, you arrive at that same central location. Next. Same view in the evening. Next, please. And then a view down in that central wooded bowl looking up towards the building. The adult wing is in the background. The youth services wing is to the right. Next. That's an evening image of the same view. Next, please. So now we can get into the numbers, which is what you've been waiting for. Thanks.
Well, it's always important to start with the facts.
Right. So, actually, can you scroll up so we're catching the bottom of the, not that far? Just to
Want to
get
get
the
this
full-
bottom or?
this slide, just get the full slide on if you can. Perfect, great. I know this is a little hard to read. I don't know if you guys have printed copies.
They were in the packet.
Okay.
But
We can, well, I'll leave it at this. If you have questions, we can either zoom in or I can
Right.
try to address them. I don't want to necessarily go through this line by line because we'll be here forever, but I'll explain how this spreadsheet is set up. And this, by the way, is a spreadsheet that is supplied by the MBLC. So all of the numbers had to be fit into the specific lines that they give us. So with that said, it is
I have
organized
mine, so
this way. The first section, subtotaling to that first green, the darker green line. So this whole section up here is construction costs with a subtotal, with construction subtotal here at line 8. The way that the MBLC grant works is that there are certain costs that are eligible and there are certain costs that are non-eligible.
just like school.
Just like schools. The good news is that on the construction end, probably 98% of the costs are eligible. There are also eligible soft costs. The percentage is a little bit different. We'll get into those next. But for construction subtotal, you'll see that we have an eligible column and a non-eligible column. So we start off with construction, we break out landscaping and paving, which is an ineligible cost. On top of that, we have overhead and profit, bonds and insurance, permitting, which in this case would be waived by the municipality. That gets us to that first green line subtotal, 27.7 million construction costs marked up. That's not direct cost, that's fully loaded. Below that, though, we add a 6% construction contingency, which is standard. It's probably at the low end of standard. 6 to 8% is what we would typically see on a project of this type. So that adds another $1.6 million to the fully loaded number, which brings our construction subtotal to 29.372. And that's comprised of 27.1 eligible and 2.2 non-eligible. From there, we add on all of our soft costs to get to the total project costs. So the first category of soft costs are professional services. Those are design fees, project management fees, lead, if you pursue lead, and you can see those are empty. We have decided not to, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Any other engineering fees, interior design fees, legal services, all of that falls into that professional services category. All of the design fees are hard numbers. We've gotten that's actual proposals from our consultant team. So that number is a good number. Some of the other numbers are placeholders like commissioning agent. We don't have a commissioning agent on board, so that's an estimate.
Yeah.
But they're, Accenture, the owner's project manager, filled this out with data based on other comparable projects so that we feel confident in these numbers. So that gets us to a professional services subtotal of 4.35 million. All of that is eligible, which is good. The next category is furniture, finishes, and equipment, FF&E. That's everything. I've heard it described. If you pick up the building and shake it, at whatever falls out is FF&E. So shelving, furniture, telephones, computers, AV equipment, all of the things that are not construction, all of the things that you sort of fit out the building with. Included in that is utility back charges. That's one of those numbers that at this stage, not having had any contact with any of the utilities, is very difficult to put a number to. Accenture used 100,000, which I think is a reasonable number to hold. Things like bookshelves, furniture, those are based on a cost per square foot estimate at this point, based on comparable projects. So I think we used $6.50 a square foot for shelving. We used $35 a square foot for furniture, which is a kind of mid-range level of cost. So that gives us those costs. Window treatments are not eligible. We do have window treatments in the building. They're already baked into the construction number. They're non-eligible costs, so we've pulled them out into that column. Data equipment, computers, AV equipment, those are non-eligible costs, the actual equipment. So that gets us down then to a subtotal of 1.67 million for FF&E, plus then a contingency, just like we had a construction contingency. Projects also have a project contingency, which is the contingency on all those things that are on top of construction. So if we needed additional engineering, if we needed to bring a soils expert in to evaluate some soils after excavation, that would be covered in that contingency. That's a 3.5% contingency. And again, these are fairly standard. So if you add the contingency, the FF&E subtotal, and the professional services subtotal, that brings you to line 45 now. This is the total soft cost, 6.2 million on top of the construction costs. And again, that's broken out eligible and ineligible. In this case, 5 million eligible, 1.2 million not eligible. There's one more cost in their spreadsheet, which is the moving cost. We've put in $100,000, not really knowing how much that would be. This is a little bit different because you're not tearing a building down, you're not vacating a building, and so that moving cost, I think, is it's enough, I think, but it could be less. All of that brings you to a grand total of 35,700,000, broken out as 32.185 eligible, 3.5 non-eligible. One important thing to note of that 35.7 million, I'll call your attention to this first line. In the construction number, we've already broken out landscaping and paving as a non-eligible cost, but above that, there's a $724,000 number. And that is the cost of the portion of that parking lot that is attributable to the school. And we calculated that based on square footage, not as a percentage. So if the library was on a different site and that school wasn't there, we didn't impact the school parking, we would not be building those 43 or 48 parking spaces. We wouldn't be doing a new drop off for the school. Because this is a combined site, we sort of have to, in order to get the site to work, get the parking to work, it means reworking the school parking, and it improves the school conditions. So it's a betterment to the town, but it's not free. That cost is $724,000 based on the estimates we have at this point. So, and those are non-eligible costs fully. It's not like you can separate out the earthwork versus the paving. Because it's a different project, it's considered non-eligible. So the 35.7 million includes those costs. And it also includes the sewer hookup for the school building to the future sewer line in Route 28. So those things, they're part of the cost of the project. They're not eligible, but they're included in that 35.7 million. Next slide, please. So finally, we get to the grant calculator. This again is an MBLC spreadsheet. We start at the top with the total building area, 25,410 square feet. We tie the eligible construction cost to this spreadsheet. So that 27.167 from the eligible construction subtotal is entered in here. And then on top of that, the eligible soft costs at 5 million. So we're at a total eligible cost of 32.185. That's the amount that the grant is based on. So from there, it's kind of a sliding scale. The next 4 lines are grant award at different percentages for different amounts. So the first 5 million is awarded at 60%. The next 5 million awarded at 45%. Then the next 10 million at 35%. And then the balance of what's left is at 30%. So there are figures for each of those from the 32,185,000 at those different calculation rates. Then you add up those 4 to get your total base award, which is the 12.4 million. On top of that, the MBLC identifies a need factor for every community. I have no idea how they determine this factor. Every community has their own specific need factor. Yarmouth's is 8.36. And so that 8.36 is multiplied on top of the 12.45 and added to it. So 8.36 of 12.4 million is 1.037 million added to the 12.4 million. You're at a total grant award of 13,442,768. which represents 37.65% of the total project cost, 35.7 million.
What is the need factor?
I don't know.
Like, we don't,
So-
I get we have no control, right? But
Similar to, I'm assuming it's similar to what we have with the schools. So it's the minimum required contribution type of calculation where they look at income and, add,
Profile.
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say Yarmouth would be on the, certainly not a very low income, community, with a limited tax base. So we are going to be sort of less than most of our neighbors, but a lot more than some. Yep.
Yeah. So the total grant award, 13.4 million, gets backed out of that 35.7 million, leaving you with 22,263,322, which is the obligation to the town. So of the 35.7 million, the town would pay and would have to borrow 22.263. You would appropriate the full amount, but the borrowing would be the 22.2. On top of that, there is a reimbursement that the MBLC offers, which is a Green Library Incentive Grant. It's a grant, but it's done as a reimbursement after the fact. There are 3 different pathways to get there. I mentioned LEED earlier. This will be a high-performing building. One of the one pathway to get this additional money is LEED certification. LEED certification, we estimated would cost about $130,000 to pursue. So that would get offset by the 400,000. But another compliance pathway is to meet stretch energy code and stretch energy code, stretch building codes, specialized energy code, which we're going to do anyway. And so it's going to be a high performing building. If we achieve that bar, which isn't an additional cost of the project, we get the full value of the MBLC's Green Incentive Library. So that's the plan. So we're not pursuing LEED, but it will be a high-performing building. We're code mandated to provide an all-electric building, fossil fuel-free, solar-ready. Solar panels are not baked into this number. They are an eligible cost. It's too early to know how much solar would be for a project like this, but if you wanted to get to net zero, our estimates right now are around 550 to 560,000. For the panels plus design is probably another 50, 60,000. So you're upwards of 600,000, but roughly 38%, 37.65% of that would be eligible covered by the MBLC. So it's not included in these numbers, but it's out there for discussion. So the 403,000 comes after the building is opened, after you have demonstrated compliance with that particular pathway, and then you get that as a reimbursement. In terms of the grant itself, the grant is not a reimbursement. It is issued in 5 installments with very specific milestones, and they're not equal installments. They used to be 5 equal installments of 20%. They've changed it this grant round. First installment is 10%, which comes at the signing of a contract with the MBLC accepting the grant. So basically, the schedule that I showed you, when we're ready to start design, that's the beginning of that. You have a signed agreement with the MBLC at that point. They give you the first 10%. So that 10% is going towards your professional services for that year of design. The next installment is 15%, and it comes at the end of the construction documents phase. So at that point, you're roughly 70% through your design fees. The next installment is 25%, which comes at the signing of a contract with the GC. So 2 to 3 months after that 20% or 15% installment. The second and third, there's in terms of the milestones, completion of CDs to getting a contractor on board is a relatively short period of time. The fourth installment, another 25%, comes with certificate of occupancy at the end of construction. And then the fifth installment is after project is fully closed out. It's been confirmed that there are no outstanding obligations. Contractor has, all affidavits have been filed. There's a completion of a final report that's submitted to the MBLC. So that last installment is effectively a reimbursement. It comes after the building's already in service, as would the 403. So that's a very rough outline, but it gives you a general sense of how the grant works and how the timing works. And it has more to do with cash flow probably than anything.
Hey, Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about the potential for fundraising and how much that might offset some of this cost as well?
Yeah, Linda's here, and I don't want to speak for Linda, but I will say that I've heard that there's a target or a goal of 2.5 million.
That's one number that's been brought.
Okay.
So part of the MBLC, part of the grant requirement is the town has to do some level of fundraising. There's no fixed amount that the town is required to do. However, we've met several times, and right now we're, like Linda said, we're looking at 2.5, but there are further discussions going on. So that will if all goes according to plan, will help offset this 22.263.
Right, so if you take 2.5 million and the 400,000 out, you're down around 19 and a half.
Yeah.
A little over 19.
Yep.
Would be the obligation to the town. Which, on a $35 million project is, I mean, that's a pretty amazing opportunity. As these grants are, it's not a guarantee that there will be another grant round. And one thing that I always like to remind people when we're talking about these projects and whether or not to accept the grant, it's taxpayer money that funds the grant. So it's your tax dollars that either pay for this project or pay for somebody else's project.
Before I see the chairs has her hand up, so I don't want to ignore her questions or comments. Judy?
Yes, thank you, Richard. I just mostly wanted to underscore a couple of things that Matt had said, and thank you, Matt, and thank you, Tom, for introducing this process. The biggest one is that this grant round is here, it's now, and it's significant. And this library project has been kicking around town for like 20 years. And this may be our last opportunity to have such a significant amount of the cost being underwritten by our dollars and somebody else's dollars. So I think that's a huge point to be considering. I also wanted to let you know last night at the select board meeting, it was mentioned that there were 2 estimators involved. And that was a lot of work. That was like one little sentence, but the estimator from Ondello came up with a number, and then the OPM had another estimate, and they worked very diligently to bring those numbers together so that the number presented to you and to town meeting is pretty solid. So I just wanted you to know a lot of work went into that. And then the other thing was, Matt kind of went over that very quickly, was that this budget includes sewer hookup for the MacArthur building. And Amy and I had kind of a long talk about this yesterday because I was questioning why that was included. If the timing is right for us to hook up, and we're pretty well assured from Jeff Colby that the timing will be right, then the town would be paying for the MacArthur building to be hooked up anyway. So this might be another one of those costs that's embedded in the budget, but that is actually something that is a benefit to the town and would be borne by the town anyway. And the reason it's kind of in here is that just because the sewer line's going by, the town may have chosen to not hook up the lateral connection at that point just to save some money and defer that cost. But that's why that's why that's in there. So that's all I had to say about that stuff. I have more to say later, though.
The chair recognizes our library director.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add something quickly, which is that so people understand a little more on the context of the program. This is like a directly funded project, and there are lots of other projects that are on the waiting list. So it is true that these funds will be dispersed to a project. Falmouth is actually in a design phase, and I was talking to the director in Falmouth the other day about their progress on this. So just to underscore the fact that this is an opportunity for the town. These funds will be dispersed to some community in the pipeline. So that's basically all.
I'll come back to you in a minute. Yeah, John.
So line 7 for contingency, is that truly just like the unknown for construction?
Yes.
Or just, yeah, unknown, okay. So if that being said, given the timeline of basically 3 years, right? Like, what's the confidence rate in these numbers? I mean, if I went to bid something for my house today, it's
Yeah.
not what I'm paying 24 months from now, right?
Right. So there is escalation built in to the number, and I don't know if that's it's that it is in the number, it's not called out as an individual line item because that's not how the MBLC sets up their sheet. But it's in that first line, the construction cost includes escalation. So there's a year of escalation built in at 5%, which is about the going rate now, better than 12% we saw around COVID. So we feel confident in the numbers. As Judy said, this was a project that was estimated by 2 different estimators, and we reconciled. We spent about 2 hours going through every line item. Some, one guy might have come down, the other one went up. And so we feel very good. It's a well-vetted number. If you look at the construction costs, it puts the library at just over $1,000 a square foot, which is right around where we're seeing costs these days for a municipal building like this. The Cape, it does tend to see a pricing premium, depending, especially on where you are on the Cape. You're not as far. You don't have
not
as
on
big a
Martha's
premium as Provincetown does. But once you're past the elbow, it gets worse. But there is a premium here, and that's baked into these numbers. So, and that even came up in the reconciliation. Paving, it's going to have to come from this place, and that's going to drive up the cost. And so that's baked in. So in terms of the confidence, I feel pretty good with these numbers. These are also estimators that we've been working with for years, and we've done a lot of projects with them. We've had good success in terms of them predicting costs, and they're targeting a middle bid. So the theory being you might get a couple bids higher, but you'll also get a couple lower. The 6% contingency, as you said, is for unforeseens. We don't know. There might be organics that we have to get rid of. There's no perfect set of documents. There are always things that come up, and that's what the 6% is for.
Thank you.
Raphael?
So thanks, John, for setting that up. Was going to be the first thing I was going to hit. So in my projects since about a year after COVID, we've been baking in 7.5% contingency, 7.5% year over year for multi-year projects. So I would encourage you to use 7 or 7.5% for your contingency to the points that have previously been made. The unforeseen, but also doing business on the Cape. Also, codes and regulations change, and you need to be ahead of that. So that's my recommendation based on commercial, utility, and heavy construction practices. The next thing I'd like to hit on, let me cross that off my list. What's your anticipated, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around my list here. Why was the existing MacArthur School eliminated as a candidate for an upfit, retrofit, and remodel?
It's not an accessible building for starters. It's also a different use. So the change of use would trigger pretty significant code upgrades, structural upgrades, accessibility upgrades, ADA compliance, and at the end of the day, you're left with a library building that's a split level from grade. So if you've been in that building, I haven't, but I've seen the plans. I've looked in the windows, I've walked around it, but I haven't actually been inside. But I know that when you come in either door, you enter at a mid-level landing, and you either go up a half a flight of stairs or down a half a flight of stairs. So you're constantly fighting that, both in terms of accessibility, but also in terms of egress. We did a structural analysis with our engineers to understand the existing conditions and get a rough idea of what would be required to upgrade that building. We talked to our cost estimator about the cost of renovating it, bringing it up to code, going through the change of use and all the requirements there. It would have to comply with energy code. It's a building that was built in the 60s, I think. And so
50s.
50s. So it doesn't even come close. So there's a huge amount that would have to be spent to make it compliant. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't be a good building, in our opinion, for that use. So our estimator believed that the cost of renovating that and turning it into a library would be roughly the same as the cost of new construction. And you'd be limited by the physical constraints of that building in terms of its proportions, in terms of the structural bays. School is a lot of small rooms. Column placement is less of an issue. Libraries are much larger spaces, more open. Columns become problematic when you start laying out shelving and furniture. So it just, there was not exhaustive study, but everything that we looked at pointed to it not being a suitable option for the library.
I see, Judy, you have your hand up. Would you like to?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the other big part of that was that Areno is not eligible for this grant. The grant that we put in was for new construction. So at one point there was a ballpark number thrown out that was equal to building the new library, and then the entire cost would have to be borne by the town.
Thanks for pointing out that minor detail, Judy.
Yeah.
That was the most glaring one from what I recall.
The chair recognizes Mr. Pendleton.
One other follow-up to Matt and Judy is currently that building is somewhat of an economic benefit to the town because that school houses kids that cannot go to a traditional school. So we'd have to be bused. Right now, they'd have to be bused off Cape, which would be an extreme expense to the town. So plus all the other towns send their kids to MacArthur. So they would in turn be a little bit ticked off at Yarmouth for having to send their kids off Cape.
I have a question.
Yeah, Alyssa.
Alyssa, so I know, and I didn't see this anywhere in the plan. So I know you mentioned we're not demolishing any of the existing library structures if we do vote to move forward with this. Do we know who would incur those operational costs? Is that still in the library budget, or would that be part of the town budget? Like what would that look like? Or if we haven't figured it out, that's fine.
No, so I think the plan, I guess to answer your question, if I understand it correctly, the South Yarmouth Library, the future of that building has not been determined to the best of my knowledge. The West Yarmouth Library, the select board has committed to keep operating that. That at this point is not, I don't really foresee that as a change in the operating budget of the library because obviously we operate it as a library currently.
Okay.
So we would be, at least from the budget perspective of the library, we would be paying for the operation of this new facility and also continuing with the operations of the West Yarmouth Library. And beyond that, whatever becomes of the existing South Yarmouth structure is up to the town.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson.
So, as someone who's on muck as well, I have a major problem with that answer. If you've seen the warrants, it's $200,000 for Matakees next year for upkeep, right? When we met with Jeff Colby for his budget, he flat out said that things are going to be cut on his budget and it's Matakees, right? That concerns me that there's no plan for that building.
The South Yarmouth.
South Yarmouth Library, with this new construction. And I get it's 3 years away and there's, plenty of time before we actually get to that point. But Matakees is I don't know how many people are downstairs right now, talking about it, but it's can be a hot button with a lot of people in town. and the cost of maintaining that building, even though my opinion is we fully need that building right now for recreation. But it's, that's a tough pill for me to swallow, not having an answer.
Ms.
I was
Harry?
going to say something.
Yes, Mindy, would you?
From my understanding previously, with Jane Kane as the director, the Historical Society has expressed great interest over the years for the South Yarmouth Library building.
I think it's accurate.
And they stepped up very early and expressed an interest.
The other question I would have from a budgeting perspective is like, what's the size of South Yarmouth right now? Do you know?
24, 25 million?
No, he's
No.
talking about square footage.
A square footage. Oh,
It's-
South Yarmouth, it's less than 5.
Yeah, so it's what, 5 times, 4
The-
times,
yeah.
4 and a half? So is that, like, I would think that's more staffing, more,
That is something that we actually are kind of looking at. There is no question that our operational model will be a little bit different, but that's a little bit between now and then type of question. I can't tell you straight out which way. I do think that there's a way we could operate the building within the budget that we have. But we will have to look in greater detail at exactly what our service model is going to be, how we would staff the different service points, whatnot. One of the slight differences between the way that we operate these two buildings is that we are required by the state to be open 59 hours a week. We're currently open 57 hours at South and make up the other 2 at West, because overlapping hours don't count. This building would be open the full 59. That doesn't really impact things all that greatly, but that's just a small detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, it's a little bit concerning with the budgets this year, right? And where that, I mean, I think a community room is awesome, right? The large room, a small room, terrific, right? I'm sure if we move ahead with this library, it's going to be used, 4 nights a week, right? But there's a cost to that, right? That the town currently is not taking on.
Right, so using the schools as a guideline, operating cost for, in terms of things, the routine stuff, heating, custodial services, routine maintenance, not substantive repairs, but just routine maintenance is about $10 a square foot. So you'd be looking at a differential about 20,000 square feet. So that'd be about $200,000 for the building additional.
Can I,
Can I speak on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's so many issues here flying around, and I want to let you know that the committee heard lots of comment from the community about the reuse or closure of both South and West. The position of the MBLC is that this is a grant for the town to run a library. So they would be happy if there were no other library in town, as long as we get to our staffing of 59 hours a week. So just that, and the reuse of either building really wasn't the purview of our committee, even though we heard lots of comment on it, which is what drove the select board to take a position on maintaining the use of West. So that's one part. South, as Mindy said, there have been people expressing interest also from the private sector. So that's not this huge campus like Matakey's. So I think it probably could turn over. But again, it wasn't our purview, and the planning will need to go into effect once we know the building is going forward. I also want to comment on Richard's number because we can't just compare operational costs from multiple buildings that are at different levels of energy compliance. So this will be a brand new building. It will be very tight. It will run well. Certainly South doesn't, and West doesn't either. And if we look at our entire school buildings, those are also older buildings and may not be nearly as efficient. So although it's a nice number to chat about, I'm not sure it transfers exactly to a newer building.
I'm not sure it translates exactly either. It's just sort of like I say, it's just a context.
It's a touch point. Yeah, I think and those are good to have.
Raphael,
What's the design life of this building, of the new construction?
I mean, it's hard to say. I would say 50 years for sure. I mean, but it could be, I mean, it could be longer than that. The structural system could be around for 100 years easily.
Useful, safe, useful design life. What are your architects, what are your designers and estimators basing their numbers on?
I don't know the answer to that.
And that's fine. That's an honest, truthful answer, and I would like that answered. Okay, so because back to John's point, which is one that's been a very hot button topic for me, is I get it. You folks are focused on one aspect, and you're laser focused on the new library construction. We're responsible for the entire capital and operational budget for the town. So we have a wider FOV, field of vision, okay? And we have a longer runway we have to consider. So as you bring something online, as you bring a new model of automobile, as you bring on a new ship line, you obsolete and get rid of the old ones. So we need to see, and I'm not picking on you folks, okay, but we do need to see from you folks and the town and the select board, what's the operational plan to not spike our staffing, spike our operational costs while we're still operating and staffing 40, 50-year-old libraries and other buildings across the town. Expressing interest, and again, I'm being I'm maybe coming off as a little harsh here, but other organizations expressing an interest doesn't get the town off the hook for insurance, operational costs, staffing, etc. So we'd like to see a plan for, ramp up and ramp down. I'd like to see, what the proposed design. Everybody knows what the design life of a vehicle is, of a product, what a particular product. So I don't know is an okay answer, but the architects, the material science, and the folks that are quoting this do. So we do need an answer to that. Okay, I would like an answer for that. And again, what's the comprehensive plan for all interrelated buildings? I think that's good for now for me. Thank you.
Judy.
So do you then see this as our role to take to the select board?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, because we kind of sat back the last time and they went ahead and said, okay, we're going to make a proposal and take a vote on future use for West. But we didn't come near that kind of a conversation on South.
No. I'm not putting that on you. I'm putting that on the town leadership, the select board. There has to be a comprehensive plan to avoid spiking operational costs, staffing requirements, and if it's 3 years from now, great. That's plenty of time to figure it out. Okay. And that's plenty of time to nail down folks, true expressions of interest, as you put it. Okay. Or outright selling off the land and raising the buildings or whatever the plan is. But we need to see that waterfall if I'm making sense.
You're making perfect sense. And I wasn't asking, should we do it, but who's going to make that communication to the select board? That's my question.
We will be recommending.
You will, okay.
That's all we can do. So the
And
other thing,
and I'm sorry, and my final comment, Richard, is I would like a tighter number on the operational cost of the facility. Again, folks do know what the design life is. I appreciate the original, the rolling estimate of the $10 per square foot, something along those lines. But on an other project, the sponsor told us the operational costs were going to be $50,000 to $55,000 a year. We're up to $98,000. Okay, so we need a tighter number on the operational cost of this facility, and I appreciate I'm in the electrical industry, so I appreciate LEED certifications, high energy efficiency models. I'm not a fan of 100% electric. We can see what happens during a storm when you go 100% electric. But the reality is, even with the advent of all this technology, CFLs, LEDs, etc., the annual electrical consumption rate continues to go up. So just getting numbers, getting more, a little more tighter information, tighter knowledge on this building, design life, operational costs, etc., would be helpful. Thank you.
yeah, and Jennifer, and you didn't see this, Raphael, because we just got this, but Jennifer has already prepared a debt schedule for this project, so we should be able to do at least a high level sense of this.
Good.
Lisa.
I have a question. And please don't be discouraged by our minds. We think in spreadsheets and numbers, and this is what we're trying to really get down to it. So you mentioned solar panels, and I think it kind of ties into, I would also like to see the operating cost or at least estimates. But what does that conversation look like? And is that an additional thing we would vote on? Like what's the threshold for having this conversation about solar panels?
So solar is an eligible cost from
It's
the
eligible.
MPLC. So we don't know what the cost of solar is because we haven't designed the building. So it's very difficult. And this gets into the estimate of energy use and therefore operating costs. We're at mid schematic level. So we can estimate those things, but they are estimates. And until it's designed, we don't know, but we can get reasonably close. So we would have to estimate the energy usage of the building. We would then have to figure out the, average production for a typical solar panel, multiply that by the area of the roof available for solar and figure out, can we get to net zero? We think we can. And some kind of very rough back of the napkin calculations suggest that we can get to net zero and that we would need about a 200 kilowatt array, which is about at $2,250 a kilowatt direct costs marked up. That ends up being about $560,000 for the array, and that's installed. That's an eligible cost. So of that percentage that you saw, the 37.63% that the state would pay, they would pay at that same rate for the cost of the solar. Or actually, that's not exactly true. It would get added to the bottom line. So it would be an eligible cost. That eligible number would go up. So it would sort of trickle its way through that grant calculator spreadsheet.
So you'd be on the margin at that point, is what that would be, right? So you've already gotten to the 30% max or 30% minimum.
It would be, yes, it would be, if we go to that, it would be in that
Bottom bucket.
Yes, it would calculate at 30%, presumably, right? It would get added into that bucket.
Tax rate.
You take a question from the floor?
We will, because of your esteemed presence.
If we were to rent solar panels.
Yes.
Would they still be eligible for
No.
they wouldn't, so it has to be purchased.
Purchased. Yeah, if it's part of the construction cost, it's eligible, as would the design fees be.
And do you have to make a decision on that at some,
Well, it's-
before we vote on it or no?
So that was my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
That's what I'm
so
trying
we're
to get
voting,
to.
we're voting,
Yeah.
right? And, our current select board is gonna push for solar, right? I mean,
At least one member
at
is.
least a few, right? So I guess a town question, technical question is like, we vote on this, solar's determined, yes, we want to move forward with solar after. Does that bring a warrant for a town meeting for $500,000 for solar?
Correct.
Yes.
I just want,
Jennifer.
sorry, I just wanted clarification just because I'm like periphery. So this is gonna be designed so you can put solar on here, but the actual solar panels and the installation isn't part of this.
That's right.
Right,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a separate warrant.
You
article.
could add it now, vote on it.
Sure, yeah.
And, or you could say, well, we're gonna pause that and maybe down the road, town has an extra $500,000.
There are,
But you won't get the reimbursement from the grant if you don't, I don't think, correct? If you don't do it.
that's
now.
right. If it's not part of this package that goes, that's part of the appropriation that goes to town meeting, it doesn't get included.
Correct.
And actually before, in terms of the way this works with the MBLC, before we go to town meeting, the MBLC board votes on this number. So we finalize these numbers, it goes to the board, and I believe the board meeting will be first
April
week of
2nd.
April.
April 2nd.
April 2nd. So April 2nd, they will vote and you'll get an official letter. And it'll be based on the number that you've supplied to them. So by the time we give them the number, it's got to be in there or it's not considered.
What is the chance they reject the proposal?
The consultant said it's never happened.
Yeah.
These guys have been working with the consultant all through the process, so any little hiccup that's come along, they've moved straight. So they've been working, they have a great working relationship.
Yeah.
Judy, I see your hand is up.
Yes. So yeah, I just wanted to say that we don't have a lot of time to fiddle with the number either. Because of that deadline. So it has to be submitted to MBLC. We're already at March 11, so that they know to put it on their agenda, which presumably has to be posted ahead of time. So I, for one, was really looking forward to this meeting because I knew we were going to get a lot of challenging questions to help us put the finishing touches on this whole project before it goes to town meeting. So I just want folks to know, for myself, I'm not offended. I would guess Tom is not offended. Most of our membership would not be offended. And many of these questions we have looked at. Some of the questions we don't have answers to, but I really welcome your questions. So thank you for those.
Can I add one thing to this whole?
You certainly may, sir.
So it is an eligible cost as our design fees. There are also other grant programs out there for solar. And I don't know all of them or what they are, but solar is one of those things that there are a lot of different pathways to get there. Susan mentioned renting. That's an option for sure. Eastham did it that way. We provided a solar ready building. They entered a private agreement with a company. They lease their panels, and they are managed and owned by that leasing company, and they sell their power back to the grid. There are a lot of different ways to get there. I think the tax incentives have changed for solar. It used to be a very attractive option for donors because municipalities couldn't take advantage of the tax credits, but a private entity can, and so private donors would donate the solar, get the tax credit, but buy the solar for the town. I think now the town gets a tax credit for it, so the tax credit is something you could look into. So my point is there are other ways to offset the cost of a $500,000 or $600,000 solar array.
Okay.
Okay.
Raphael.
I just wanted to reiterate something Alyssa said earlier. Please don't get discouraged and take it as negative or no votes here. I don't think any of us are against a new library. Okay. But we're sitting here. One of the big hats that we have to put on is representing the taxpayers. Okay. And in the next few years, there's going to be a lot of stress on the taxpayer. And we just have to make sure we're doing our job as volunteers and representing them and asking questions that they would probably have for you if they were squeezed into this room with us. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give you guys another heads up. So Alyssa and I, because of our past involvement in library, have the appearance of a conflict of interest. How you like that one? So we're going to need a meeting next week.
You need a quorum.
I'm saying I got to make sure I have a quorum, because if we have to recuse ourselves, we need everybody else here. Okay?
So my question, Richard, I'm sorry, is,
Yes, Mr. Pendleton.
oh, that's okay, because are you meeting next week, right?
Yeah, we had hoped maybe.
Because our meeting with the select board is the following week, so
Right.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
they'll
Timing
meet
is
again
okay, yeah.
before you meet with the select.
Yeah. I was just looking at the time.
Okay. I think there's a couple, I guess, one of the other quick questions related to the MBLC grant. We certainly have had cases again, this is with the MSBA, where it's sort of like after the fact, it's like, oh, that's not an eligible cause, and oops, that's not, and so what was going to be a 40% reimbursement ends up being something less. How confident also are we that provided that we follow this path, that we are not going to be nickeled and dimed by the exclusion factors?
The scenario you described with MSBA, and we are not MSBA veterans. We have not done a grant project.
But you are a veteran of these.
We are. We've done quite a few of these, and I will say that the MBLC is very reasonable. I have not seen them claw back money or pull a fast one and say that's not actually eligible. Where things can shift from the grant amount is, let's say at bidding, it comes in 2 million under,
Right.
God willing. But your grant was based on an amount that was 2 million higher. That money, as I understand it, that money is still available to the project, and so it would offset your contingency, or it can be used for things directly attributable to the project. It wouldn't, at the end of the project, if there was money left over, go into the town's coffers.
Right.
So if in that scenario, that's when they would ask for money back.
Okay.
As I understand it, that's the only instance where
On the flip side, obviously, if the bids come in higher,
if the bids come in higher, the grant is what the grant is.
sir.
Just to put a little bit of detail on that. So what they will certify is an amount of money that is a not to exceed amount. That is it. If the project comes in lower, then yes, they do reserve the right, and it's typically in the last payment to prorate that
Right, back down.
which would come out of basically out of the last 30 million. The other thing, just to your question about the vetting of sort of the expenses and whatnot, our BLC consultant actually went through the spreadsheet as you see it. So she's looked at all of this and said, yes, this is this. And I know that she met with you and she met with UPM. So I think, it's possible that there's a discrepancy somewhere, but they've actually looked at this with a lot of detail. So I would be surprised, in other words, if that's.
And again, I commend, doing the double bidding or the estimation. That's a very smart thing to have done. Judy.
Hi, this is so difficult not being there in person. I just wanted to let you all know that although our committee had, yes, laser focused purpose, the membership is really diverse in the sense that there's not anybody on there except me who isn't wearing a couple of hats in town. So Tom Pendleton, who's with you, is on the planning board, and he is the representative from the planning board to capital budget. I think Susan's there. Susan Britta is our liaison to the planning board. Sandy Fife is not only our secretary, but you all know Sandy, but so she's our link to Capital. Dorcas McGurran is our link to the select board. And John Greco, a member, is our construction rep. So he and Tom have really been, and Susan have all been very helpful in those processes. And then David, who's with you, and Mindy, and Joe Lebrecq, who is the director of circulation, is also. Those three, as library people, are ex officio members. So, we have been pulling from a lot, even though our goal, yes, is laser focused. We have not had one meeting where we haven't said, oh, there's Matikes, there's sewer, there's, so this, it's a well-informed group. So I just wanted you to know that. So back to you, Richard, what is the direction then? If you're going to meet next week, hoping to have enough people to have a quorum without you and Alyssa,
I'll
then
be here, but I just can't.
are
I'll
you
be-
expecting a different number from us? Are you expecting something different from us to take an
Nope.
action on?
Nope.
Okay. It sounded like more information.
No, I think it's just sort of, we follow the rest of the bouncing balls, in terms of operating costs and debt service and all that sort of stuff.
Narrative that you're expecting more information based on what Raphael said about, you want more narrative about operating costs, correct?
On useful design life. I think it was specifically design life.
And some overall sort of global notion about future staffing and things like that, general operating costs.
I mean, personally, I don't know if we're gonna get that in time.
No, I don't think
I think we're, town is doing a disservice to the residents by not providing an outlook for south, is it realistic to keep west?
Yeah.
I don't know, right? I can't speak from 3 years from now, right?
Right.
I think we're shortchanging the residents on this vote.
Yep. So is there,
Totally
Shortchanging
agree.
because there isn't enough information?
Right, nothing that has to do with you guys in the committee but the town, what is the town's plan
For west and south.
for west, for south, for staffing, if operational costs in 3 years go up 15%. Where's that, to Raphael's point, that's our job as finance committee, right? Where's that money coming from?
Right.
Look at oil in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So I think we're at a point now, I'm assuming, again, we know everybody who's on this committee. If we have specific follow-up items, get certainly in touch with you guys. I mean, you see me often enough.
Too often.
So unless there are other questions, and again, we will be, again, I'm giving you the timeline, so that you know that next week is sort of our.
You don't need us to be back next week.
Oh,
do you?
no,
Okay.
no.
Come for the fun.
No, thank you.
No.
Got enough fun in my life.
Yeah. Again, I think the effort that has gone into making this is incredible. I applaud your outreach, your the meeting videos, everything has been done very, very well.
Watch my podcast.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate it and the presentation.
Thank you.
It's very
Yeah.
helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick that and then come out back.
Which one?
Yeah,
Oh,
can I
which
have
one do you
another-
want to take?
This one? I don't know. Which one?
What are you
What
looking
the
for?
debt service
This
one.
right
No,
here.
but the top one, most important.
Actually.
This one, yeah. This
what
one.
you-
Yeah.
Thank you.
This needs to be tweaked. This was done before the adjustment was made here. It's negligible on the tax.
I know.
Still not the right number.
Like almost like tears.
You and I are a little bit too crazy.
Board librarian, that's just being there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming down.
Claire, what
Good to
a
see you.
piece of advice.
So,
Thank you.
other than sort of Jennifer's wanting to get out of here, I assume you don't have any significant update to make other than,
Oh, so when are you gonna take up Dennis Yarmouth School to vote on that article? We just do that next week or?
Are we gonna get any more information about Dennis Yarmouth from
we,
more than what?
we may, so let's talk about that. So maybe close that, just make it. Just not, it's more the noise than anything else, not the, so the budget as proposed is a significant override, which is,
So the override for the Dennis Yarmouth School District is like 1.478, I believe, 87. And that would be like, I think 13, it's 1481348. And that's 13 cents on the tax rate. I will say through the presentation last night, the school committee has voted on this budget.
Okay.
This is their number. There wasn't any indication last night that they're changing that number. You can have continued conversations with them, but you know, we're in a time frame right here. I'm not telling you have to vote tonight. Wait till next week, but that
yeah,
number's not changing.
yeah.
They weren't, it's not going to change. The school committee already voted on it.
Okay.
So, I do, sort of, the town administrator and others are still, and certainly I'm behind some of the discussion in terms of some of the, accounting type issues, which I referenced last night. So, but we have to be prepared to vote or to recommend this article. So which is the increase right there. So that's with the override. And I would prefer to do this next week, when we either if we have some additional information, great. If we don't, we will have to take a stand on this next week. Okay? In the packet, there were some minutes, believe it or not. And thank you for doing all this, Jennifer. I mean, it's amazing. So there are two sets of minutes, one for February 4th, and then the other one was for last night's meeting, which I will need to amend to say that Mr. Anderson was also present. But it basically is that the March 11th meeting or the March 10th meeting is a pro forma saying that we didn't, we didn't have a quorum, so we adjourned, type of thing. So if there is a willingness to,
I will move to approve both with the amendment
excellent.
last night.
I'll second.
Okay, hold on one second. So March 10 and 4. Anderson, Tiers. Any others? Hearing none. Alyssa?
Aye.
Raphael?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So we'll get those posted. We got the last two sort of are working on those. So excellent. And I think that's it. So I think the only other thing, unless, so we are going to have a meeting next week to finalize our last two recommendations. If there's anything else, now I don't know if do you need to be here for that?
Well, I'll be here. Somebody has to run the Zoom.
Yeah.
Hybrid.
Okay. Excellent. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Favor, Alyssa,
Aye.
Raphael?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, so meeting is adjourned at 7:45.
Thanks, Raphael.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.